Here. So why are we talking about the appreciation in of the different patterns in nature? Simply because what we will be learning starting today are the different kinds of patterns and sequences. And these patterns and sequences have something to do with the different patterns in nature. So if you watched the different videos that I uploaded in your Aralix account, you will appreciate this even more. Okay? Now, to those who haven't browsed yet, patingin nga. This time, kindly raise your hand if you browsed the Aralix activities, especially the course presentation for week 1 in math. Raise of hand, please. Okay, let's see. You are 48 now. And so far, only 20 raised their hands. Pwede po yung module? Yes, that's also the same. No problem. Walang problema doon. Oh, pati yung module. Actually, yung course presentation and the module, pareho lang yung laman. Pero yung sa module kasi, I also inserted some videos. Some videos na which I find an additional resource for the learning activity. Okay? Ayan, thank you so much. So, to those who haven't accessed these Aralings activities for this week, for now, I will allow you. But for next week, please accomplish and do all the things that you need to do in the Aralings before our class. Our class is only on a Friday, during Friday, so you have longer time to accomplish all these activities. Why? Because this will prepare you for our class today. Okay po? So, next week, mamaya kapag nirelease na yung activities natin for week 2, access them at least even before our class on Friday. Because hindi na ako magdi-discuss ng mga basic concepts which are presented in your module and in your course presentation. Automatic, sa next week natin, dumidiretso na ako sa solving. Why? If we will be discussing everything, including all the basics that are presented in your Aralinks, ay naman, hindi tayo matatapos ng oras. Kulang yung 3-hour protected time natin if we will do that pa. That's the reason why we are preparing resources for you to learn and uploaded in the Aralinks para mas natututo tayo ng mas mabilis at mas maaga. Okay? Thank you so much to all those who participated. Ayan. 28 pa lang ang nagsagot. Okay. Maybe because they haven't access the video yet, but please, just like what I'm telling you, do the activities in the Aralinks kasi those are prepared for you in our class. Okay? Thank you so much. And now, let's move on with our discussion. Lower down your hands, everyone. Okay. Let's now move on with our topic. So, of course, our topic for this week is about patterns. Ayan. So, this is just a quick view of our topic for this week. Ayan. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo activity which you should answer. Ayan. Let's now move on with patterns. Patterns, you all know this. Since preschool, you've been learning patterns already. But now that you are grade 10, we will be focusing more on the sequence. And when we say sequence, these are arrangement of numbers in succession with a specific order. Okay, so tuloy-tuloy po. Meron po tayong specific order when we say sequence. Look at these examples. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, adding 2, 5, 10, 15, 10, 5, 0, subtracting by 5. this is very easy for us. All we have to do is to identify the pattern. 3, 6, 9, 12. And then, what is the pattern in here? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Type the answer in the chat box, please. Let me see. What's the pattern in 3, 6, 9, 12, 15? Type it in the chat box. Very good, at 3. So what about in our next? Identify the next three terms in our pattern by multiplying 3. 1, 3. What are the next 3 terms? Our pattern is multiplying by 3. Do it. Let me see. Okay, 1, 3, 9, 27, 81. Very good. What about 100, 50, 25, 12.5? What is our pattern here? Good. Dividing by 2. What about by squaring the numbers? What are the first 2 terms? What are the first 2 terms if our pattern is squaring the numbers? Very good. So it's clear we understand the patterns. Now there are just some things that you need to be familiar with in the sequence, and that is the word term. Each number in the sequence is called term. Remember that. A sub 1, A sub 2 onwards. Those are the first term, second term, and so on and so forth. Okay? That's it. Now, as you have seen, my discussion here is fast simply because you must have learned this already in our Aralinks. For now, nagkakaroon ako ng fast discussion of this to give benefit to those who did not access their activities. But for next week, I will not be doing this anymore because I'm expecting you to already access your Aralinks activities before our class. Okay? So, next week, wala nang patapatawad pa. Diretso tayo agad sa mga lessons na. Kasi kung hindi, di tayo matatapos. Okay? Please take note of that. That's one thing that I would like to ask from you. So, we have here the 2 types of sequences. The first one is the finite sequence and the other one is the infinite sequence. Finite meaning may start and end. And then infinite, from the word itself, infinite, it's not ending. So therefore, tuloy-tuloy pa siya. Okay? Now, here we go. For example, in this terms, how many terms do we have in this set of given? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Type the answer in the chat box. How many terms do we have here? Let me see. How many terms do we have? 5. Very good. So for finite sequence, please take note that we have our first and last terms. First and last terms are called extremes. Extremes there. And our means are these terms inside the first and last terms, or in between the first and last terms. Okay? Take note of that. So let's now move on with our explicit form. Explicit form, there is a formula. This is a formula used to find the next terms in the next positions. Kasi for example, if the numbers are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and you are asked to identify the next 3 terms, that's easy. 12, 14, 16. If you are asked to identify the 15th, the 10th term, it's so easy because the numbers are near the given sequence. But what if we are asked to find the number of term that is too far from the original sequence? What if you are asked to find the 156th term, the 1000th term, the 1,000,000th term, the 1295th term? In that case, doing the manual counting for the formula will be very tedious to do. We can do it. That's doable. However, it will be very tedious to do. So the best way to work on that kind of problem is to use the explicit form. When we say explicit form, it's a formula. So let's have this example. Its explicit form is A sub n is equal to 2n. 2n. Ibig sabihin, n here is our given formula. N is the number of term. Let me make this smaller and have the computation here. Ayan. So, for example, we have here A sub n is equal to 2n. 2 is a constant or a coefficient. And this tells us what to do with our given. We multiply the number. And n here is the number of term. Got it? So, for example, A sub 1, this came from A sub n. So n and 1, meaning we are talking about the first term. Got it? Now, if we are asked to find, A sub n, A sub 207. How will we do that? We will use our given formula for the explicit form. So we will have 2 times our n. Ayan, these are just the same. So if we have here 207, definitely what you will write here is also 207 because you are looking for the 207th term. Okay? And so when you multiply this, A sub 207 is equal to 207 times 2. What's the answer? Type the answer in the chat box, please. Type the answer in the chat box. I'm expecting everyone to participate. Ready your calculators, everyone? Very good. That's correct. So it's 414. So the 207th term is 414. One more. Find the 1,306th term. Go. 1,306th term.
Others, they may share it in our chat box. But please, to those who will not be called, you can share your answer in the chat box. Okay? Now I will be calling Ibe. Ibe, what's your promise? Go. Say it in English. I will.
Okay. Type the answer in the chat box, please. Very good. That's it. Napakadali. That's very simple. So we have 2,612. That's it. Got it? Show a reaction in the chat box. Now, show a reaction in your reactions bar and see how are you performing so far in this first part of our discussion. Good. Congratulations. Ganun lang sa kasimple. That's how simple it is. So always remember, the explicit form changes. Again, the explicit form changes. This is not always A sub n is equal to 2n because just like what I told you, it depends upon the sequence. So it's possible that we will be having different types of explicit forms, just like what's indicated in our module. Look, the first is A sub n is equal to 2n. The next is A sub n is equal to 3n plus 1. So next is A sub n is equal to n squared over 2. So, paiba-iba yung mga formulas na ginagamit natin. Okay? So I request you to try this during your free time for you to practice more on the use of the explicit form. Okay? Patingin nga, who among you already answered already answered this? Let's try these activities. Raise of hands, please. Show me.
You will be keeping your promises. Remember your promises, remember your promises. And now, let's move on to our selection. Do you remember this?
Okay.
Do you
Good.
remember this?
It shows that very few again answered these activities. Please try them.
So this is
Okay? Because this serve as practice for you. Okay? Let's now continue. Now, if there is a formula, that's very easy. That's very easy if there is a formula to follow. Kasi we just have to substitute and solve. As simple as that. Now, there is another thing that we need to learn as well. And that is by learning how to write an explicit formula. Okay? How to make a formula. So meron tayong sinusunod na process. Actually, this process will help us if ever we are not so keen and so good in identifying patterns in math. But actually, we can also do some more things even without following this process. All we need to do is to analyze our given. Let's have this as an example. Let's try 5, 10, 15, 20, ayan, and so on. So we are asked to find or make an explicit formula. Okay. So if we will look at this, what's the pattern used? What's the pattern used in this sequence? Type the answer in the chat box. What's the pattern used in this sequence? Let me see. Very good. Oops, merong adding 5 and some are multiplying 5. What's the real thing? Okay, the real thing here is plus 5 or adding 5. So 5 plus 5, that becomes 10. 10 plus 5, that becomes 15. And then 15 plus 5, that becomes 20. Ay, sorry, plus 5. Okay, so that is our pattern. Okay, so if we will look at this, if this is A sub 1, if this is A sub 1, this is A sub 2, A sub 3, and A sub 4. Ayan. So, all we need to do is to make A sub n an explicit formula. A sub n is equal to, what formula do you think can we do wherein we just need to add 5 and our first term is 5? Sige nga, try to make a formula without following the steps here. Anyone who can try? Let's go back to this one. Kasi before going into this process, I want you to learn the skill more than just simply following the pattern. Look at this. In A sub n is equal to 2n here. So for A sub 1, that becomes 2 times 1, that's 2. A sub 2 becomes 2. 2 times 2, but that becomes 4. For A sub 3, 2 times 3, that becomes 6. For A sub 4, 2 times 4, that becomes 8. So looking at the pattern, we added 2 here. Plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. Now, this plus 2 has something to do with this process, with these terms. Oh, sige nga. What do you think should we do? Try to make a formula. Okay. So going back to this one.
Here are the questions.
So one of your classmates, Stephanie, showed or shared an answer in the chat box.
So,
She said, it's A sub n is equal to 5n.
which is
Aha,
the
tignan nga
answer
natin.
of the
Let's
boy?
check. For A sub 1,
Two.
A sub 1 is equal to 5 times 1. That is 5. First term, checked. A sub 2, that becomes 5 times 2. The answer is 10. Next term, checked. A sub 3, that becomes 5 times 3 is equal to 15. Checked. And A sub 4 is equal to 5 times 4, and that is 20. Checked. Very good. So Stephanie was able to make the formula and the explicit formula for this equation. Thank you. That's correct. And Stephanie, would you like to open your microphone? How did you arrive at this formula?
Next, let's
Stephanie?
answer on
By getting their difference po.
Sige nga.
Ano po, by getting po yung difference po ng second term tsaka first term po.
And then, what did you do? So she
Tapos
got...
po,
Sige, continue.
tapos po, ano po, chinek po if pare-parehas po sila ng difference.
So chinek niya. And then?
Tapos po yung difference po yung nilagay ko dun sa explicit formula.
Okay, thank you. So yung common difference niya, yun yung ginamit niya dito. Tama ba, Stephanie?
Yes po.
Very good. That's it. Correct. Let's have another example. Ready? Okay, practice pa lang, ha? Ready? Let's try this. Let's have 1, 8, 15, 22. Sige nga, try to make a formula out of this. Go.
And now let's have the next.
This will end na in a minute. Okay, some already shared their answer. Sige nga, keep them still. Hayaan nyo lang. Isa pa lang naman nag-share. The rest, kindly try it. Try nyo rin, ha? Try nyo rin gamitin. I-substitute yung first term, second term, third term, and fourth term if you will arrive at the same answers. Okay, pero mayroon na kayong idea on how to do it. This will end in a minute. Kindly join again when this ends.
Go.
Okay. So your classmates already sent their formulas. It's A sub n is equal to 7n. Okay, ino-note ko yan. This will end in a minute. Kindly join again. Okay? A sub n is equal to 7n. This is what your classmates have sent so far in the chat box.